Hey, what's going on, everybody? Christian Ballard Sports Media coming at you with a video today doing our Texas preview for 2024. Welcome to the SEC. Before we get into this, please hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. Really would appreciate it. Helps the channel out. It's free to do, so it doesn't cost you anything other than a second of your time. That being said, let's move on and talk about Texas for a second. What they were able to do last year to make the college football playoff was incredible. Was it surprising? I guess in 2022 they had that moment where it was like they held in with Alabama a little bit. They did go 8-5 though, but you kind of expected them to jump up on the college football landscape in 2023 in some sort of way, and they did that. But I would say maybe not in the way that everyone expected them to. I think that it did kind of catch us by surprise. I mean, they played Rice week 1. The Alabama win on the road at Tuscaloosa by 10 points was incredible. But then you also had the people that said, "Well, Alabama is gonna struggle with their quarterback and everything, so maybe they're just not that good of a team." And Texas, oh, did they get lucky or something? Well, then they just keep winning against these Big 12 teams. They lose the Red River game. They win out. They win the Big 12 in a rematch. Um, or actually, not in a rematch. I'm sorry. Not with Oklahoma, against Oklahoma State, I should say. And they get into the playoffs. Okay, they get into the playoffs. They get there and they fall to Washington by 6 points. Like, they made it a game. They were balling out. Thing is, you have a team that went to the college football playoff. Their quarterback, Quinn Ewers, coming back, uh, to lead the offense. You got to have some backup guys to watch out for. CJ Baxter comes in at running back. You could talk about the defense with guys like Kobe Black coming in. Isaiah Bond's going to come back or come in, I guess you could say, because he's transferring from Alabama, of course. They've dipped into the transfer portal. Amari Niblack comes from Alabama as well. They picked up a big time freshman and Jarrett Gibson at running back. So give Cedric Baxter or whoever, or CJ Baxter, I should say, not Cedric, I'm sorry. Uh, give him some competition at that position. Right. I think Texas is going to have the pieces. I think they're going to be loaded. They're going to roll the dice a little bit. The thing is, can they handle the SEC? Is it going to be too much for them to handle this year in a new conference? You got to think about the road environment you're going into. Honestly, the more I think about it and the more I do research and look into it, like the spring game is going to show only so much of what this Texas team is going to do. They have their spring game April 20th, 2 p.m. Eastern on the Longhorn Network. We'll look at their schedule in a second. But the more I think about it, Texas is just that juggernaut right now. They're not the biggest and baddest team in all the land or anything. They're not Georgia. They're not what Nick Saban in Alabama did. I know Nick Saban's gone and Alabama's got a new head coach and everything. They're gonna have their own issues this year, honestly, and obviously. But I do think Texas coming into the SEC, yeah, the question still remains, can you handle it? Because the SEC is just different. So their first SEC game, first test will be Mississippi State at home. That being said, let's just go ahead and pull up the schedule. I'm ready to dive into this. I'm ready to talk about it. We're gonna make this one quick on you guys too. Let's start from the beginning here on the schedule. August 31st, Colorado State should be an obvious win. Colorado State's a pretty good team, but You compare that to what Texas is able to do. The caliber of Texas right now, it's just it's a no-brainer pick right there. At Michigan, that could be a possible upset if you pull this off against Sharon Moore, because Jim Harbaugh, of course, gone. But if you pull this off in Ann Arbor, that's a tone setter, is it not? I mean, kind of like that Alabama game last year. Aren't you in that same situation? You're just now in the SEC, of course. UTSA probable win. Good team. ULM win. Mississippi State. Now you get into SEC play. Then you get your bye week. Uh, Oklahoma and the Red River rivalry. We'll look at them in a later date. Already looked at Georgia so far. I am going to stick to Georgia being the team to beat Texas on this schedule. At least one of them. At Vanderbilt, you probably, again, haven't looked at Vanderbilt yet, but Vandy has been an improved team the past couple years. One game shy of a bowl last year and everything. Can they, take that next step? Can they pull an upset here? It's very possible. But, at the same time, I think Texas is better than Vanderbilt. You get your bye week, you host Florida, at Arkansas, Kentucky, at Texas A&M. Good to see that rivalry back too on Thanksgiving weekend. The Lone Star Showdown, as they call it, at least from what I remember from growing up. So um, this is a honestly, I don't want to say it's a tough schedule. I do think it's favorable. Kentucky can be tough. A&M on the road late could be tough. We'll see what Mike Elko wants to do. Oklahoma, Brent Venables, you're used to them, right? You got to keep that rivalry. These two teams square off, still at the Cotton Bowl and everything. It's just a SEC game. Georgia, I'm going to chalk that up as an L. I honestly, I go back and I think the head scratcher is the Ann Arbor, Michigan game. And to be honest, I'm going to have to give it to Texas here. I just think Texas will be more loaded. I think there's more talent. I think that, Michigan is going to drop off a little bit. I think they're still going to be great. But, I mean, compare what they're losing to what Texas is gaining through recruiting in the transfer portal is just incredible. So, like, it's almost not even close. I mean, Isaiah Bond has come from Alabama, right? They got Jared Gibson, a true freshman, five-star running back from IMG Academy. Colin Simmons off the edge, and Andrew Makuba from Clemson going over to Texas. Kendrick Blackshear from Alabama. I could go down the list. I mean, they just brought in some transfers, and they have so much. How would you put just experienced guys that have been there? A couple SEC guys that know what it takes. So that being said, I look at this. I say it's pretty favorable for Texas. I'm gonna go ahead and say at most we give them 11-1. And with that being said, their only loss, honestly, I say it's gonna be the UGA game. I think that's close. You probably could pull that off at home, but I still think Georgia is Georgia, and they're still gonna run the SEC going forward. It sucks saying that as an Alabama fan, but with Kalen DeBoer in the picture and Nick Saban retiring, Kalen DeBoer can do some great things for Alabama, but let's just call it what it is. I mean, next man up, Kirby Smart's the guy, right? In the SEC. So you just got to give credit where it's due there. And honestly, I really don't see much room for error for Texas. So that's a hook 'em, preview there. And I mean, at Arkansas is going to be terrible again. A&M is going to have to figure some stuff out. Maybe they get hot late in the season, and maybe Texas drops that game at College Station, Kyle Field. Florida, I'm not buying it. Vanderbilt, not buying it. Mississippi State, we'll see with Jeff Levy. I I still don't know. I still don't know. So anyway, that's my prediction. I'm gonna say 11-1 at most. They are gonna drop a game, and I think it is to Georgia. They could drop that Michigan game, could drop Oklahoma. There's a couple different ways they could go this year, but they bring so much back. They're going to be locked and loaded. They are going to be in the 12-team playoff. And ultimately, don't be surprised if they're holding up the golden scepter at the end of the season in 2024. I love you guys. Let's get out of here. Jesus loves you. God bless. And from an Alabama fan, roll tide. We'll see you.